Ever since they burst on the scene with their stand-up coaster Iron Wolf, B&M has dominated the coaster game with their high quality and reliable rides. You know who B&M is? I'm not really going to waste your time giving some big bloated intro. Today we're going to be ranking their coaster models. A lot of people have been asking me to do a video like this for Intamin or S&S or RMC or some other crazy manufacturer, but no. Today we're going to be doing good old reliable B&M, and there's one reason why. Consistency. See, with S&S and Intamin you have bangers like the 40 coaster and the wooden coasters, but then you also have the 40 coasters and the wooden coasters. And RMC only has like 3 models, so that would be a really quick video. But B&M has quality across the board. Every one of their major models has multiple large-scale installations and at least one good ride from each. And yeah, I have my preferences, that's why it's a ranking, but for the most part, I'd say these models are at least all solid. They may not have the highs like Intamin's, but they definitely don't have the lows. So without further ado, let's get into the ranking. Actually, one more thing before we start the ranking, I haven't been on a B&M Giga, which is like their best one, probably.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
So yeah, I can't really rank that one, but I've been on all the other ones, so here we go. This is what it feels like to ride a stand-up coaster as a dude. I really don't understand why stand-ups exist. Like, it was B&M's first model, but it kind of seems like more work for them to make than just a regular ass sit-down coaster. I don't know anyone who enjoys these rides. I've only been on one, soon maybe 2, but that one was Green Lantern at Great Adventure, and it was really not an enjoyable ride. It just doesn't make sense as a design. Who would want to stand up and then go upside down and over all these airtime hills and crazy elements in this rigid position, putting all the pressure on your feet and knees? Like, that sounds horrible, and yet they exist at multiple parks. The only reason they're popular is because it's a novelty to stand up on a ride, but once you get on the ride, you realize you just wasted 2 hours. And you think that these would have layouts that would cater to the standing up aspect, but no, these got the most demonic, massive elements I've ever seen in my life. Like, look at Riddler's Revenge. Why would you ever make a dive loop that big? What am I looking at? I really have nothing good to say about the model. The layouts aren't that good, the standing factor is a pain to set up, and it's literally painful on the ride. And they always have massive waits because they take forever to load and unload. This is an easy last place, and you know what? I know I said all their ride models are solid, but this one isn't. This one is pretty bad. I think the surf coaster will improve on it because it seems to be fixing a lot of the issues, but it still doesn't fix the fact that I don't want to stand on a roller coaster. From here on out, there's nothing really bad. This one isn't like incredible, but it's not a bad model either. It's just kind of there. You ride these when you have time at the park, and if you can't get on it, then like, you can't get on it, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. This is one of those models where you know exactly what it feels like, even if you haven't been on it. It feels exactly how you'd expect to feel. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but they're just very predictable. Like, there'll never be a floorless coaster that wows you. I've been on 2 of the better ones with Kraken and Bizarro, or I guess Medusa, and honestly, I could not tell you the difference between them if you blindfolded me besides the first drop. The loops feel like regular loops. The 0G rolls are good, but not amazing. There are painfully average airtime hills, and they're not slow, but I wouldn't exactly call these speed machines either. They're just fine. I skipped Ruru at Cedar Point because I feel like I could kind of piece together the layout based on Bizarro and Kraken, and I know a lot of people are going to say that's one of the best floorlesses and you shouldn't have skipped that, but like, is it really that good of a ride in a park with steel engines? I don't think so. I'm sure there are other good ones that I haven't been on, but I don't know. They just kind of don't really interest me all that much, but they're not bad. It's a 5 out of 10 on this one. Now, some people might be confused why this is above the floorless, because they're really the same model, except this one has a floor. And to some people, the floorless aspect might be cool enough to sell them on it being above this. But for me, that is just not the case. There is one reason that this is above floorless coasters.
Speed. I am speed.
For some reason, and this may just be the 3 that I've been on, but these things run crazy fast for no reason. Everyone knows Kumba's fast. Like, you don't even have to ride it to know that. Like, you can just see it. Hulk has recently been on Demon Time for some reason. I say recently, like my last ride wasn't over a year ago. But when I rode it in the end of 2021, it was running really fast all day. First ride of the day and last ride of the night. And Wildfire, okay, well, Wildfire is pretty average, but still, 2 out of 3 of them are stupid fast for no reason. It's not like Wildfire is slow, it's just like floorless speed also. You don't realize how big of an impact speed has on a solely inversion and intensity-based ride until you've been on one of these. It's like driving a brand new Tesla versus like a 2011 Honda Civic. The Tesla is Kumba and the Civic is a floorless coaster. Obviously, it doesn't change the ride is still a sit-down coaster focusing on inversions. There is an airtime, the inversions are still cookie cutter, and the layouts are predictable, but at least they're a little more intense, and at least it's actually trying to do something. This is a 6 out of 10. It's slightly better. This is just a fun model. I feel like before you've gone on a wing coaster, you kind of overhype it a little. Like before I went on Gatekeeper, I thought this model would top the list, and I realized they're just not that, and it's not really trying to be. These are pretty rides first and foremost, and they're supposed to be a spectacle and a centerpiece for the park. And I think that catfishes people into thinking there's gonna be amazing rides, but they're really just graceful B&M loopers. The elements are supersized, so you take them slower. There's actually airtime on some of them, depending on how tight your vest is, and the near misses on these things are insane. And I mean, it makes sense. Like, you feel really vulnerable in a wing coaster. There's nothing above you, there's nothing below you, and depending on if you're the outside seat or not, there could be nothing next to you. You're just exposed except for the vest restraints, and you feel like you could hit anything at any moment. These are also probably B&M's best theme coaster. Because of how well these play off of near misses, it leads parks to build these elaborate set pieces ranging from signs to dive through to full-on mountains to weave around. It really just boosts the ride experience from just another B&M looper to where you can actually see the park is trying to make a unique experience. And we're starting to see B&M become more ambitious with this model, with vertical spikes and a backward section of the new Jumanji coaster coming to Chessington Park. I would love a backwards B&M wing coaster in the States. There's also wing overdrops, which are pretty fun. If you want the best experience on a wing overdrop, then sit in the front. You'll get the hang time as the train slowly flips. If you sit in the back, you'll just feel like a really big dive loop. Overall, the wing coaster is a really promising model for the future, and I have a whole video on why these things are popular if you want to hear more. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10 also, but it's a better 6 out of 10. A strong 6 to a light 7, if you will. Now, I haven't been on Tatsu yet. That'll probably be next week at the time of this recording, but I have been on Manta and Superman, so I think I have a decent understanding of this model. This is similar to the wing coaster in the sense that you feel really vulnerable in this ride, but not because you feel exposed, simply because you're on your stomach. Like, it's just a weird position to be in a coaster. Your first flying coaster is gonna be one that you remember for a long time, but it is really fun flying around in your stomach. I've always thought the Presto Loops seem kind of out of place for these rides because like the entire ride is just gracefully gliding around smooth track, and then there's some random inversion thrown in there that literally tries to kill you. Don't get me wrong, they're really good elements, but something about them dropped into the ride like this always is a little jarring. But I still really like them, especially since you can only do this on the flying coaster. Like, there's no pretzel loop on an invert. That's just not how it works. This is definitely B&M's most unique model, and one I think gets craziest overseas. I have a whole video dedicated on one of these in China that goes bananas with this thing. There's also Flying Dinosaur that people always praise, and I'm sure I'm gonna love Tatsu when I ride it and regret putting it this low. But for right now, I'm gonna give the Flyer a 7 out of 10. They're really good. I know a lot of people are going to be annoyed that dives are this high, but let me explain. I feel like when people say, oh, it's over after the drop, that's not really giving credit to how good the drop is. You basically start the ride out with a really good drop tower. You're facing straight down, you get the stall at the top. Like, it's basically Falcon's Fury at the start of every dive coaster. And I know after it's nothing special, but it's still a B&M looper. It's got the same cookie cutter elements as a floorless or a sit down, just super skilled like wings. So really, how could you put this lower than one of those models? The only one I could see you putting above this are Flyers, and on any given day I might swap these two, but for today I prefer dives. Tatsu might change that though. But I've been on 2 dives with Valraven and Shikra, and both were equally fun rides. They're not trying to be the most innovative or unique rides, they're just a good time. They're GP magnets, they're capacity monsters, and they can also be pretty well themed around like wing coasters. These are some of the few rides I still get that stomach drop feeling on, which always makes the hour-plus wait worth it. And I bet you if you stopped playing into the hate that you would like these rides too. I feel like the people that hate on dive coasters are the ones that haven't been on one, so like, what are you saying? You're just echoing YouTubers? But most of the people who have been on one really like these things. So yeah, this is a solid 7 out of 10. This might be B&M's most iconic model, and it's for good reason. I've been on quite a few of these at this point, so my ranking is a bit odd. My least favorite is Raptor, which I know for a lot of people is one of the best ones, and it's not because I dislike Raptor. Oh no, I think Raptor is a great ride. I just think all the other inverts have something unique that differentiates themselves. The Raptor is still really fun. The straight drop is cool, it has a really dominating presence on the midway, and its green's color scheme pops. Next I have Batman the Ride. These clones are the whippiest inverts and probably some of the most intense coasters ever built. Like, if you've been on one of these running fast on a hot day in the summer, it's a guaranteed gray out every time. And then there's Montu, which I know is another common favorite, and this is a really good ride. There's actual theming on this, it's a really long layout, which is something a lot of inverts can't claim, and there's the famous Batwing element. But my number 1 is not Montu, it is Great Bear. Yeah, I know this is a weird one, but just like, let me explain. First of all, I know this only has 4 inversions, but all 4 of those elements pop. The 0G roll is crunchy, the corkscrew is whippy, the vertical loop is intense, and the element snaps you. The setting is also really great, weaving over and around the hollow, and the helix in the beginning is a weird way to start it, but I really like it. It gives the ride some character. I know it's not a popular number 1, but I think it perfectly encapsulates everything about inverts that makes them great. Snappy elements, good pacing, train interaction, and that loud roar. You knew this was coming from the start. Once I said Gigas weren't here, you knew Hypers were going to be #1. There's no way anyone puts any of these other models above Hypers because I truly believe this is B&M's only perfect model. There is genuinely nothing I would change about these things. They have great restraints, amazing airtime, unique layouts, monstrous capacity, and they look incredible. Seriously, I have no complaints here. There's floater galore, they'll sometimes sprinkle in some ejector or some intensity, and that's like all I could ever ask for from a Hyper. They tick every single box. The 3 I've been on are solidly in my top 5. Mako is amazing, Canobie is amazing, Nitro is amazing. Whichever one is the next one I ride will also be amazing and easily in my top 25. Now, like I said, I haven't been in a Giga, but the Giga is essentially the same model, just super scaled with slightly different elements. Gigas don't focus much on airtime, they're more about showing speed with unique elements, but to be honest, I don't know if Gigas would take the #1 spot. Like, the Hypers are that good. They are the blueprints for Hypers that everyone else is trying to replicate. Like, be honest with yourself. If you're thinking of a Hyper coaster, you don't think Skyrush, you don't think Superman the Ride, you don't think Steel Vengeance, you think a B&M Hyper. Easily a 10 out of 10 and by far B&M's best model. And that's just gonna about wrap up the rankings. I know it ended a little predictably with Hypers and Inverts, but that's just because those 2 ride models are really good. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and I will see you in the next one.